Uh,
Y'all infidels were burning witches tonight. Not even Smokey the Bear is going to be able to save your ancestors this time, you stupid moron.
Someone in the comments picked him with a band-aid. That was good. I'm sorry, that was fucking good. Anyways.
Well, that's my job as a woman, I think, first and foremost. And then as a writer, I got to maintain some level of like, making sure that you're in a good place.
Everything that they've done since claiming the PS5 is for hardcore gamers. It's just simply appeal to the casuals.
That's about it. Follow me on Twitter. Preserve film, just like preserving video games. I don't know.
Hunter! What's up? In the White House? Seriously?
Well, Marvel and what Stan Lee, I think, I don't know if it was genius or laziness. It's like, we'll just put them all in one city. We won't even make up a fictionless and we'll just use new.
Here the night, what you got coming up for tomorrow?
I'm perfectly sober.
Lies.
Thank you.
Are you home? Do you have children? Must not you be their hope? Are there future generations from all of us who have failed them?
And the mom shaming, a term typically used to highlight harsh judgment of birthing people.
Fuck these stupid
Who wrote this shit? Who wrote this shit?
Road.
Hello, people. It is Tuesday night. We're back here, episode 64 of the Barroom Podcast, and some things have changed. So some things definitely changed over the last time you guys were here. Cider's a judge now for some weird reason. Rob is back. Rob is back on the show. Pete's here. He's actually invited this time, and we have a new panelist. But before I get into any introduction, Cider has something that he wants to share with the rest of the class. So I can only imagine what a disaster this is going to be. Let's go ahead and pull it up. Yeah. So is there an origin story to this new side of you, Cider?
Yeah, no. On Thursday nights in the Holy Legion, I pass judgment like Judge Judy and that other guy, and
yeah, you know that guy,
Judge Joe Brown.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, like that. I ain't got
Joe
no neck,
Mathis.
Judge. I ain't got no neck. That's all. That's the only one I know. But anyway, he was hilarious. But yeah, no, that's apparently a thing that happens now. So. Small claims court. I am absolutely not qualified to pass judgment on anything, but we are more than welcome to have fun in a voice chat pretending that I can.
I feel like I need to be a part of that. So whenever I'm done reviewing my movie, I should definitely get a link to that one to see what a disaster that's going to be. So there's a Cider's plug for the night, Judge Cider. But for everyone else, let's go ahead and introduce everyone to the show. We got a good buddy Orange Hat who's back with us once again. How you doing, Orange?
I'm hanging in there.
For some reason, oh no, there she is. Well, I had a joke there, but then you ruined it. But Cassie's here. How you doing, Cassie?
Yes, it is that hot.
Yours always.
And we all know Cider's here, so we don't need to give him a second introduction. But Pete's here, and this week he's not a party crasher. How you doing?
I know.
Pete?
I'm lame this week. I'm not as cool as the Honorable Justice Cider.
Yeah, the Supreme Justice.
No, wait. I'm not on Judge Dank's level yet. All right.
Oh, okay.
I'm just small claims civil court. Okay.
You don't want to like walk outside and your car blow up randomly or nothing like that. I mean, it's too much pressure to be a Supreme Court justice. So.
Right. Exactly. A Supreme. Is that what you said? A Supreme.
I think I said Supreme, or
okay.
maybe that's how it blew out. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. You're high, so it could be either one of us at this point.
That's like a Krispy Kreme judge.
Get this man a donut.
Exactly. Our good buddy Rob Motto is back with us here on the show. How you doing there, Rob?
I'm just fantastic. I'm just having to like watch everybody's takes the last couple of weeks without being able to complain myself has been very painful. So I'm happy to be back.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to complain about tonight, so you'll get your fix in. And then also joining us here for making his barroom appearance here on the show, you may have seen him on our Monday night show, our Bible Lens podcast, which we did episode 8 last night, coming up on 9 here next week. But our good buddy Johnny is joining us here for a couple of topics that we have to talk about here tonight. How you doing today, Johnny?
Can't complain.
Yep. So you're on the Big Boys podcast now. So it's obviously it's going to be radically different for what we do on Monday nights because we're talking about a whole course of things in the world of entertainment. But before we get started, let's go ahead and introduce our guys who are in the chat with us right now. Neozoic is joining us all in. He has howdy a barroom crew and the good folks in the chat. Fun question: which 90s or 80s dark or mature comic book film would you rather watch? The 1989 Batman film or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It is an easy pick for me, Batman all day, because I don't like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think anyone who likes the Turtles suck and probably needs to grow up. But how do you guys think? Well, I'll start with you.
I like both. I like both growing up. But Batman '89 was like the movie of my childhood, so I have to go with Batman. But I do like Ninja Turtles.
I love both of those motherfuckers. I just got done doing an '89 review today.
Good for you.
And the 90s Ninja Turtle movie is freaking the best Ninja Turtles movie out there compared to all the other shit that we've gotten called Ninja Turtles.
Really fun film, dark, considerably dark for
Exactly.
close to what the comic book is, as close as they can get it realistically.
Yeah, Michelangelo ate a guy.
What I love about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is those suits look so good in that first movie, and they're clean and crisp. We're like, oh wow, Jim Henson made this. And then as subsequent releases, you can tell it's the same suits, but they're like falling apart little bit by little bit till you get to the TV special, and there's like moths flying out.
Yeah. Johnny, what's your thoughts? Are you a Batman fan, or you're a Ninja Turtle fan, or you're a fan of either?
I'm not really a fan of either. I haven't seen either of those movies, but I would probably. I'm curious what the suits look like. I'm not gonna lie. The turtles.
It's very dated. Let's just put it that way. But I mean, hey, it might still look better than modern day CGI. So that's somewhat of a better endorsement there. But yeah, no, Batman all day. It's not even close. Vanya is also joining us, saying hello, fine people. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Drax the Clown already getting ready to smoke his CM Punk pack. We'll get to that here in just a moment here, so don't jump too far ahead. Spencer is joining us here tonight, saying that he was once a CM Punk fan, and just hearing you say that just makes me think,
what a mark.
We'll get to him in the course of tonight as well. So we got a lot going on here. Double Fetch joining us here tonight. Neil apparently has a bonus question for us. Which giant monster movie franchise would you rather watch, King Kong or Godzilla? We were literally watching this movie at work like last week, and I was asking the question. I still haven't figured out how a giant monkey can beat a radioactive lizard, and no one's really gone out of their way to explain that to me. So I would have to choose Godzilla there, kind of by default.
I wouldn't have the right person explain it to you then. Yeah.
Thumbs.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Thumbs.
Thumbs and trees.
I don't know. King Kong has actually produced good movies, unlike Godzilla. So there you go.
Both have their high points. Both have their low points. But Godzilla all day, every day for me.
That would have to be a debate that we can have, because honestly, I like the 2014 Godzilla movie more than I liked the 2017 Kong movie. That's just me. Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna say what everybody's thinking. The Pacific Rim sequel sucked, and we were robbed of an American kaiju series.
Yes.
Yes, we were.
I'm very happy that didn't happen. No, I will say, look, King Kong at least has like 1933. That's an incredible cinematic achievement. And look, Jaws wouldn't exist without King Kong. So I kind of connect that to King Kong as well.
How would Jaws not exist with King Kong?
Oh well, it's just a monster movie, and King Kong was one of the very first, of that genre. So I just think it's too iconic not to sort of influence someone like Steven Spielberg. But that's just I could be full of
inspiration. Inspiration I can understand, but monster movie, Jaws was always or I wouldn't say so much of a monster movie because, well, sharks exist in real life.
Yeah, but what about the megalodons?
Right, but the name Jaws
they existed in real life.
Giant, larger than life, great white shark. So I think that kind of plays into it. But
considering frickin' Deep Blue is basically around the same size as Bruce from the first one. I mean, the only thing that shark had that other sharks don't is jowls and rubber teeth.
And a 3D movie, but Alex, the hairline guy, I still never got the reference to this. This is something that him and Cassie have been doing for weeks, and I still don't get the backstory of this whole thing.
Trust me, I'm just rolling with what Homeboy presents to me. That's it. I'm not in on it. Apparently, he's just making fun of his fucked hairline. That's all it is.
5 years.
Just shave it off. Once it starts going haywire, just shave it off. That's the best thing that you can do. Don't Let Him Burn joining us here today says, what is Guan? I have no idea what this is a reference to. It might have been something I said earlier and I've already forgotten.
I mean, I know about guano, but not Guan. What's Guan?
Rob's already saying that Batman's way better than the Ninja Turtles. I agree. Boba Fett's also not really. Judge Judy, exactly. Cider needs a drink for his bar exam. There you go. Who else do we have joining us here tonight? Tactus Jones is also here saying that he chooses Batman over Ninja Turtles. See, there's some smart people here in the chat here tonight. New Line went with cheap suits for Ninja Turtles 3. They looked awful. Yeah, definitely agree with that. Did. JEC said the direction helped shoot around the suits that looked better in the first movie. I agree with that. What's up to JEC?
Great.
Rest in peace to the guy from Smash Mouth. Yeah, I heard about that story. It was like they reported that he was having liver failure and that he was on hospice care. And then literally 10 hours later he was dead. So it's like he even didn't make it as long as they thought that he was. And I mean, like I said, we all know the song. We all like the song. And it just kind of sucks to hear someone go out like that. So yeah, rest in peace to the lead singer of Smash Mouth.
He's now an all-star.
Spencer only just now realizing that I have clips lined up for him. He's going to enjoy the show tonight. I can tell you that much. Monkeys are super strong though, so I guess so. Kong is more athletic, but I mean, it's true. But I mean, it is a giant radioactive lizard that can
breathe nuclear fire out of its face.
Exactly.
It's only because he had that axe that he had presented any sort of challenge for freaking Godzilla. I am not an idiot. I do know that. As much as I like Kong, Godzilla is far superior.
Oh God! Oh boy! What is this going to be here?
There was a silent version of the Lost World with stop motion dinosaurs.
He hit me hard.
Silence!
I had to go to the hospital. He hit me hard.
Good.
You see how he assaulted me with that chicken?
I'm not gonna let y'all go no further with this chicken junk.
All right. That's the kind of court battle I need to handle. I need to be in charge of chicken-based assault crimes. All right.
Did I just see a black dude with green hair?
Yes.
There was a lot going on in that.
There's Ghetto Joker, and he was attacking.
It was the wrestler known as Mabel.
I'm sorry, you mean King Mabel?
Yes, that's right.
Oh man, there's a lot going on there. We're just gonna.
Did that woman have a male voice?
Did that woman?
Sounds like it. Kong could put on 5-star matches. Okay. I'm not putting up with this slander anymore here tonight. Godzilla means gorilla whale, so go figure. I guess you said Viscera. Yeah, there's multiple names that I remember from. Remember Big Daddy V? Remember when that was the thing right before he died?
Yeah.
A lot of people probably would like to forget that, and I would be one of them. Yeah, and then literally JC just says it here too. So that's our intro for everyone joining us on YouTube, Twitch, and on Rumble right now. We're live everywhere, so I say we go ahead and get started and talk about Spencer's favorite wrestler in the entire world, CM Punk. Why? Because CM Punk finally got fired. Now, I say finally because if you guys haven't been following this story here, last year at All Out pay-per-view that they had in Chicago, after CM Punk won the AEW championship from Jon Moxley, there was a backstage incident where, well, not really backstage incident. He went to a post conference, the post show conference, and he basically buried Kenny Omega. He buried Adam Page. He buried the Young Bucks and everybody else that was backstage, the EVPs of the company, and said that, you know, if anyone wanted to see him, then go see him. Well, people went to go see him, and then fights happened. So at the course of this whole thing going down, CM Punk was essentially suspended for about 6 months. I think it may have been even more than 6 months. Tony Khan refused to say what was going to happen with CM Punk, how this whole thing was going to work out. Over the course of the last few months, they brought CM Punk back because they introduced a new show called Collision, and that was going to be the show that, you know, CM Punk can go do his own thing over there. He doesn't have to interact with the rest of the guys because after a year, they still haven't sat down at the table and made up for whatever happened. But they had a big show in London, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago. It was their first ever stadium show overseas. And CM Punk once again got into another physical altercation with the son of Luke Perry, Jack Perry, aka Jungle Boy. There was a situation that happened a few weeks back where I guess Jungle Boy tried to lobby to use real glass in a wrestling match, and CM Punk kind of buried him both on the spot and behind the scenes. So during the pre-show, Jungle Boy's having the match, and then he slaps the windshield of a car saying that that's real glass, like get over it or something like that. So of course, CM Punk sees this. He confronts him backstage. There was yet another physical altercation. There was rumors saying that CM Punk put Jungle Boy in the chokehold because even though CM Punk may be the single worst fighter in UFC history, he's still a trained fighter technically, so he obviously had the easy beating up 930-pound Jungle Boy backstage. So there was an investigation, and about 10 days later, AEW officially announced that we're firing CM Punk for good this time. It was announced on Saturday night that Tony Khan had fired CM Punk with cause after his investigation about the incident that happened at Wembley Stadium in London a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, the backstory here, he got into a fight with Jack Perry. This is like 1 year after he had gotten into a fight with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks a year earlier. So this is two physical altercations here in the course of back-to-back years. AEW released a statement saying that Punk's wrestling employee contract has both been terminated. Following an investigation, the AEW discipline committee have met, and they later convened outside of legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Tony Khan that he be fired and terminated with cause. That was the AEW statement. Tony Khan then came out afterwards and said that Phil played an important role at AEW. He thanked him for his contributions, but the termination of the AEW contracts is ultimately his decision, his alone. Tony Khan even said that, you know, he felt like Punk was endangering people backstage. He even said that he felt like that his life was in danger at one point. He said that he's been going to wrestling shows for over 30 years. He's been producing them on the network for nearly 4 years. At near all that time, he's never felt that he felt last Saturday with the security, with the safety, that his life was in danger at a wrestling show. He doesn't think that anyone should be able to feel that way at work. Punk, who is 44 years old now, returned to AEW literally 2 years ago. He debuted in AEW 2 years ago, and after the first year, it's pretty much been completely downhill since then. He's had injury problems. He's had fights backstage. He's publicly said that he works with children. He's buried the people that he's worked with behind the scenes. He's gotten into physical altercations with them. And after 2 years, AEW said, you know what, enough is enough. We're done with this whole thing. We're cutting our losses with CM Punk, even though he was a big draw for the company at the time because he hadn't wrestled anywhere in 7 years. But Punk is now gone. He's kaput. He's out of here. Cassie, I'm going to start this one off with you because obviously you're the more seasoned wrestling fan here on the panel here. So let me just ask you straight up, was this the right move, and should this have been been made much, much earlier?
So, I mean, you know, it was the right move to make because look, a lot of people like to defend CM Punk, but it's like he's always the common denominator when there's some form of nonsense that happens to go on, especially backstage. So it is the right move to make because things every time he's around, this just happens. And let's be real now, dude's like what in his 40s.
44.
He's more trouble than he's worth, in my honest opinion. Yeah, he's a draw, but even like fans have had plenty of altercations that didn't end well at CM Punk. So it's not like he's necessarily sane during any engagement at all, even with fans. So yeah, it was the right move to make. Should have been done sooner, in my opinion. Yeah, but at the same time too, like I understand money and all that being tied up. I'm sure they wanted to see them actually signing him be beneficial, especially when you put in that money. So I can't really say like what all the financial stuff behind it and if they should have just let him go sooner. In my personal opinion, yes, because I think he just, quite frankly, he's just a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah, so here's a little backstory with CM Punk. Now, if you guys don't know who CM Punk is, or maybe you're not aware of CM Punk,
he's a bitch.
Well, that too, but we'll get to that. All that's true. But CM Punk was a wrestler who first came to WWE. I think it was 2006 was his first year. He was in WWE. He had wrestled in Ring of Honor and a few independents before that. Came into the WWE system. His first few years, he was kind of like a mid-carder, nothing really special there. Fast forward to 2011, he cuts this promo in the feud with John Cena where he makes a lot of shoot references to Vince McMahon, Triple H, and Stephanie, and all of a sudden he becomes like the internet god of pro wrestling. It's like all the marks online absolutely love this dude. They can't get enough of CM Punk. They're like, give us ice cream bars and all this other stuff. But the common denominator with Punk, especially behind the scenes, is that he's always been a person who's been extremely difficult to not only like, but to deal with, even on a professional level. Everyone in the business has had at least one negative run-in with CM Punk throughout the course of his entire career. And what happened was that he finally got over big, became a main eventer in 2011. It only lasted a couple of years. Essentially what happened was that Royal Rumble 2014 runs along. He doesn't like the direction that they're going with him for WrestleMania. The original pitch was to have a match between him and Triple H at that year's WrestleMania, which was 30. He didn't want to have that match. He felt like that he was better than that match. He wanted to have something bigger in the main event. So he just decided to up and quit. And he left WWE. About 7 months after the fact, they finally fired him. He tried to switch the whole thing. It's like, oh, they fired me on my wedding day. It's like, well, you hadn't showed up for work for 7 months. So, I mean, it wasn't like they just got rid of you for no reason whatsoever. He did a podcast afterwards with Cole Cabana burying WWE, saying that they put his health at risk because he got sick and they didn't give him the proper treatment. That led to a lawsuit. The lawsuit led to him losing his best friend, Cole Cabana, which was one of the few people he had in his life who actually wanted to talk to him. That whole thing became a mess afterwards, and then he just kind of disappeared from wrestling for a while. He went to the UFC. He thought that he could be a UFC fighter. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. Then he just started doing comic books and movies for a while until he came back to AEW when the whole narrative was, well, now that I'm no longer in the WWE, I can do things my own way now. And then, like I said, here we are 2 years later, and it turns out that was also a lie as well. So, Rob, I'll switch this over to you. I know you probably know a little bit more about CM Punk than the others here. What's kind of your thoughts on this whole situation?
I mean, to be completely honest, the only reason I know a little bit about him is because of, I watch Nightwave and Revenge of the Sith, where they talk about him to some degree, because Mersh watches wrestling still. I haven't watched wrestling in a long time. The guy comes off as a complete asshole, as someone who is contentious, who is a conflict-oriented individual. So this isn't really that surprising to me. He seems to be like the cancer in the situation. So, even though I hate Tony Khan and his father's football team, it's the smart business decision to sort of get rid of this guy. So I mean, obviously he has some kind of a following, but I don't know. He seems perfect for our sort of ADHD riddled generation. Seems like a guy can't stick anywhere. That he always wants to head off in a new distraction or be, he has a new feud with this person or. He just seems like somebody who's constantly agitated. You know, I don't know if he's like in therapy or what his fucking deal is, but he definitely just seems like somebody who constantly has a problem, and he's not in his right mind if he's not causing a shitstorm somewhere.
Yeah, and then now that he's gone from AEW, because remember, the narrative for years was that, oh, well, WWE is the reason why CM Punk had a downfall. It's all WWE's fault. It was Vince's fault. It was Triple H's fault. Now that he's in AEW, everything's going to turn around, and that didn't happen. So now everyone's blaming AEW for all of Punk's problems. So now they're making the argument that, oh, he should go back to WWE now, because now WWE is going to use him the right way. And pretty much
want him. Nobody fucking wants him. Only a desperate fucking company that's in need of attention is gonna pick him up.
Oh, you mean like Neo Zoic here mentioning Impact Wrestling? You think that they'll be desperate enough to pick him up at this point in time? But yeah, no, that's the narrative. It's like everyone behind the scenes does not want this guy in their locker room. They know that he's unbearable. They know he's a cancer to the locker room. They don't want him. Roman has talked about not wanting to work with him. Obviously, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn don't want to work with him because guess what? They're best friends with the Bucks, and he got into a fight with him last year. So they don't want to work with the guy. There's a whole bunch of people backstage that don't want to work with the guy. And here's Seth Rollins, the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion, talking about 6 months ago when the whole news of the fight broke out, so what he thought about CM Punk. So if you think that CM Punk's going back to WWE, here's how WWE actually feels about him.
Well, I know you're a Midwest boy with ROH roots. We don't know what's going on with CM Punk, but you guys have had some barn burners in WWE. Would you like to see Phil Brooks back in WWE?
Oh, Philly Phil, stay away. Stay away, you cancer. Get away from me forever.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I don't like Phil. He's a jerk. Oh, did we just figure that out? No, everybody in the room is like, oh no, dude, did he say that? Yeah, no, he's a jerk. Come on, we figured it out over there. We knew it over here. I don't want him back. Go do something else. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you later.
So yeah, needless to say, WWE locker room is not going to welcome this guy back with open arms anytime soon. So I don't know if the rest of you guys have any inklings on the whole CM Punk story or kind of pro wrestling in general. So if you guys have anything you want to add, go ahead and shoot now before we jump over to our next topic here.
Wrestling fake.
What'd you say, Pete?
Ghost Hunters. This is my one thing I know about CM Punk. I was like that deep in the deep dark recesses of my mind. I was like, I know that name. Where's that name from? He was on Ghost Hunters one time in 2006. He showed up on Ghost Hunters Live, and that's my only CM Punk fact I know. He looked really good back then. He looked nice, young, and healthy in 2006. Kind of let himself go a little bit, but I mean, so
a little bit.
Well, I can at least give him credit that he's not a fat fuck. So.
I mean, he's a skinny fat fuck, but he's not a fat fuck. Decider, what do you have?
The court finds CM Punk to be a bitch. Case closed.
All right. Like I said, I don't think we even need a unanimous decision on that one. It's like, yeah, look, I've been saying this for quite some time here. I don't like CM Punk. I don't know what it is with the infatuation that the wrestling fans on the internet have with this guy. I think that, yeah, he cuts a good promo, but I mean, is he really that good in the ring? And is he really worth all the headache it is associating with him and dealing with him? And like I said, every single company that has worked with CM Punk, whether it's Impact, WWE, AEW, the UFC, Marvel, no one has anything good to say about him because he always finds a way to burn his bridge on the way out. And here we go again. So I don't know. Maybe this is the last time we've seen CM Punk in a wrestling ring. We can only hope. Or maybe Triple H is stupid enough that he would actually bite him back into the company, even though that everyone backstage hates this guy and doesn't want him there. Maybe he's stupid enough to think, well, if we put him in WrestleMania 40, we'll get big draws. It's like, no.
Even Triple H hates him. Like, everyone fucking hates him.
Nobody likes this guy. And that's the thing, like, when he left WWE the first time, his beef was more with Triple H than it was with Vince McMahon. Like, Vince McMahon was kind of the one who was, like, open to the idea of bringing him back. Triple H doesn't want to deal with this guy. It's like, you think if Triple H doesn't want to deal with Enzo Amore, you think he wants to deal with CM Punk? Are you out of your mind? It's just like, I don't know, man. I just feel like that the what's obvious about CM Punk should have been obvious for much earlier than now. I've been saying this for at least 15 years now. So when you see that CM Punk is the one who caused the downfall of wrestling, besides other reasons, personally, for me, I think it was the whole invasion of Ring of Honor during the mid 2000s and the late 2000s specifically that hurt it, because that's when you started bringing in like guys like Seth Rollins, who I personally don't really care much for either, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess if I compare him to CM Punk, I'd rather take Rollins, but that's not a huge metric there. So yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, there is the story there that apparently he doesn't have a good relationship with his parents either. So I mean, even the guy's own parents don't like him. So maybe that's should tell you something.
What a fucking surprise! What an insufferable piece of shit that guy is.
And then that's another thing, just real quick before we move on to our next topic. I know him and AJ Lee have been married now for what, 7-8 years. It's like, what couple gets married for 7-8 years and doesn't have any children? Like, doesn't that seem weird to anybody else?
I mean, she's an ultra feminist fucking pig in her own. They're both too liberal as fuck. Not even liberal. They're just insane fucking leftists. Like any opportunity CM Punk has to virtue signal about fucking protecting trans kids, when in fact you're not being protected because they're fucking trans children to begin with. It just kind of shows the mental derangement that goes on in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, they're
so
perfect
that's what
for
the man
each
looks
other.
like. Okay.
Yeah, and then that's his wife AJ too. Like I said, they're both weird. They're both perfect for each other. And
well, here's how I say it: if or all these people like to talk about sex strikes and not having kids and whatnot, go ahead. The people on the other side will be having sex, will be having kids, and they'll be teaching them conservative values, the stuff that you hate, and eventually your freaking stupidity will die out in a few generations because you didn't procreate to pass on your ideals.
Yep. Because, I mean, let's be honest, some of these people don't need to be parents anyway, which is why I'm not, arguing too harshly for it on the other side. So
if CM Punk doesn't have a kid, that's just one less person that would hate him. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, always finding the white pill in the situation is Cassie. Too long didn't read version of this segment is that CM Punk burned another bridge. Shocker. That's all we got to say there. So let's jump over to our next story here, because this one I really want Rob's opinion on, because this is the Oscar buzz. Apparently this film is like the best film of the entire year. It's getting so much Oscar buzz. You probably haven't heard of it yet, and when I describe to you what the film actually is, you're gonna be very, very disturbed. But Emma Stone has a new movie out, and the movie is called Poor Things. And the description of this movie raises a lot of red flags for a multitude of reasons, but it's described as a feminist Frankenstein movie about a woman who is brought back from the dead and is given the brain of an infant and then goes on to be a prostitute and has various sex throughout the entire film. And they seem to be really selling the sex scenes in this movie, because every single article I've read about this film is really putting over the sexuality of the movie. So for those of you guys who haven't read here, Emma Stone, who you guys remember won Oscar a few years ago for La La Land, as a sexual, vicarious, reanimated corpse in Poor Things. Who else we have in this movie? Mark Ruffalo is in this film. William Dafoe is also in this movie as well. The description of this movie so far is being called a hilarious, strong feminist reworking of Frankenstein that was labeled an instant classic by critics. The film stars Bella, who is a woman brought back to life with an infant brain by a mad scientist played by William Dafoe. It says that it features some of the most explicit sex ever on screen from an A-list Hollywood film actress, and her naive character discovers that she enjoys her sexuality very much. So I don't know the implication here of why you needed to have specifically be the brain of an infant who goes on to have sex with a bunch of people, because you can already tell from the undertones here, like you're wrapping in like pedophilia with necrophilia and sexual immorality and all this other stuff, moving into a movie that's supposed to be praised as the absolute best movie of the entire year. There was no attendance for the festival that happened. This was in France earlier this week. Obviously with the writer's strike and the actor strike going on, they can't promote the film at the moment, but I believe the director was there. there. He went on to say that the character has no shame, obviously, and Emma has no shame of her body nudity and engaging in those scenes. She understood that right away, he told reporters. But he said that the intimacy coordinator proved to be very useful. In the beginning, they felt a little threatening for most filmmakers, but it's like everything, you work with a good person, it's great, and you realize you actually need them. This is Lathamos, who is the director of the film. And the film apparently brilliantly skewers the way that men try and fail to control Bella, which is basically just them recreating the patriarchy once again, because we haven't had that enough in films this year. Triggering outbursts of spontaneous laughter and rigorous applause and rigorous laughter from the audience in Venice that gave it a 8-minute standing ovation. It's saying that this is a visually ingenuous black pitch comedy, and it goes further with the more of the steampunk version of the 19th century Europe and all that other nonsense. There's a couple other things about this film that I found pretty disturbing for his description here, which I'll get to here in a second, but this is a film that everyone's saying is going to sweep the Oscars this year. There's already predictions that this is going to get anywhere from 10 to 11 Academy Award nominations, even though most people haven't even seen the movie yet, but this is the buzz that it's getting. This is what everyone is claiming is going to be the very best picture of the year. Rob, I know you absolutely love it when you get these type of descriptions for movies that come out this far along, these Oscar bait movies, so I'll go ahead and start this one off of you. What do you think about Emma Stone's new movie being called the best movie of the entire year? Is this something that you're actually excited to go see in a movie theater?
Well, I actually saw the trailer close to 6 months ago. And obviously none of what they're talking about was really played up in it. I mean, I thought it was like kind of a wacky Tim Burton like kind of movie where Emma Stone went to some really interesting places. I did not know all the places she would go apparently, but I don't really. Yeah, right. I don't know what to make of this. I'm interested in the movie. I think it does look interesting. I think the description about the infant thing is really disturbing, and I'm like, okay, is that in there just to fuck with people or like what? Because Yorgos Lanthimos he's made 4 or 5 movies that are pretty disturbing. Like all of them are kind of like on some level push someone's buttons. The least movie like that is like The Lobster, which is a satire about dating and what animal you'll turn into if you don't find a mate and procreate. But he has a track record of sort of like freak out kinds of movies. So this doesn't surprise me that much. But yeah, to say that it's going to be an Oscar frontrunner when it has this kind of description, I'm going to go ahead and say X to doubt on that one, just because Lanthimos makes movies like Lars von Trier does, like Gaspar Noé. If you've ever seen Irreversible or these incredibly dark, psychological, fucked up movies, that's the kind of director we're talking about. He is not, yes, he's been nominated for Oscars before with stuff like The Favorite. This is not the type of movie that generally gets Oscar consideration because, not enough people go see it. Especially it has this kind of content to it. So again, I'm gonna try to keep an open mind and check it out. But some of the stuff in there just like, okay, is this getting leaked into the press just to get attention? Because I've seen this happen with a couple movies the last couple years where they'll talk about toxic masculinity or something with Ad Astra, and then it turns out it has nothing to do with that. It was just a PR campaign or something. And so again, this stuff interests me, but I don't know how serious I take it. So we'll just have to see.
Well, I know Peaches. Actually, I can go ahead, Cassie. I can pull this up here for a second.
Just real quick, where is this description coming from?
It's coming from the actual filmmaker. Said the director did an interview during the film, and then the description of this movie is coming from the critics who saw it at the film festival. So this is how they're describing the movie.
Okay, so that's kind of weird to me because it's like I understand, like I would like to hear the creator's description of this specifically with the childlike whatever, because we know that that actually, we know critics nowadays are fucking mentally retarded. Like literally, they're mentally retarded. There's a difference between calling a character a tabula rasa versus a child. I would like a from the creator themselves to properly describe it, because calling someone a tabula rasa has definitely a different, not perverse connotation, whereas saying that this character is has the mind of a baby, yes, is different. And obviously I would like that context to really see, because if you're just like, yeah, we made a tabula rasa like character for this, meaning that not essentially they're a child, but they have they come across as they were born yesterday, not knowing anything of social context in the world. So that is different. So I would definitely like that context to establish if the creators themselves are perverse fucking freaks, or and obviously the critics are going along with it because they're perverse fucking weirdo freaks, or if it's just the critics that are the perverse weird fucking assholes.
Well, Pete, you the one that brought this
Yes.
one from the Washington Post here, saying, and this is basically what I've heard. Like, we have a story about this pending on Bounding in the Comics right now, but this is the theme that we keep hearing over and over again about this film, about how it's a sex positive movie, it's about sexual liberation, how it's about essentially liberating women. It's a feminist film. It's about equality and all this stuff, and smash the patriarchy. So all that stuff that's in the film that these progressive critics absolutely love just sounds absolutely degenerate and disturbing to everybody else. So what's kind of your take of this whole thing?
I love this part here. It's not not that first paragraph exactly, but it's near the top. Yeah, just scroll down a little bit past that. There you go. I love it. It's in the middle of this. So this is how this critic who seems to be on the side of this is describing how Emma Stone put it. Okay. This is just beyond crazy. Quote, what if women could be reborn in our adult bodies with zero shame about sex and an endless appetite for experiencing the wonders of the flesh? What if the strictures of polite society never interfered with our pursuit of pleasure? Why don't people just do this all the time? Belle asks her lover, played by Mark Ruffalo. And I as much as I can take. My thing is, and I think you could tell me if I'm wrong, you guys who are better with films, I think there was a film in 2011 or so. It was like early 2010s. The Banderas did. It was a similar idea, but I think it went so badly. It was a film festival and everyone walked out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of these films, I'm like, so are they doing it for attention? But then again, when I read these summaries about how these actors or these directors, these creators feel about, they put it in activist language. Like, look at this. It's like we're feeding the orphan children. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is so wonderful. And it's like, you made a movie about a zombie woman with the brain of a baby. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and if that's the takeaway that you want to have with the movie, maybe not have like the infant brain and the implication that this woman literally has the mind of a child and her idea of liberation is being a giant whore. Like, maybe that's not something that you want to portray to people.
But see, and maybe I'm fucking wrong, completely fucking wrong in saying this. But wouldn't that be like a starting point to be like, hey, this is what a naive fucking person would think. This is what a naive person would come. They would come to this conclusion that this is what you should do. Now, hopefully, Lanthimos is an intelligent enough filmmaker, which I think that he is, to sort of make that commentary with this movie. I'm hoping it's literally the opposite. You know what I mean?
And to be fair, but here's the problem. I think that when I've seen movies like this over the last few years, and whenever they do make a point like that, it's usually on accident rather than on purpose. It's like they're trying to portray one thing, but they're not realizing exactly what they're portraying. So they may see this as some kind of like liberating movie for women, when they could be portraying the exact opposite. It's like, oh yeah, this is why all you guys are depressed and on antidepressants and have dogs. It's like, you're really realizing that this is what you guys are advocating for, and then this is the end result. And that may not be the conclusion that they want you to take away from it. That's what they're building in the story here.
It reminds me of Don't Worry, Darling last year, remember?
Yes.
It's just like, you just told on yourself in the worst fucking way.
Yeah. Essentially, you're saying that, I'd rather work 60 hours at a hospital and be completely miserable and come home to an unhappy relationship than be in any kind of like fictional scenario where we're actually happy.
Yeah.
So what are the porn stars doing wrong? Do they just have bad PR reps? Like, What's the difference? Maybe it's because I'm kind of prudish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch a lot of R-rated movies. It feels like you kind of are doing the same thing, right? But like,
but worse.
That's seedy, but this is like posh and fancy.
Even the porn industry has standards that they won't even go anywhere near a childlike bullshit.
Yeah, it makes me ask the question.
I'm sorry. I need to say this. This movie, whoever is or the people involved in this movie need to be investigated. Everybody.
Well, I mean, they're European.
I mean, this movie
so that's going to be the excuse.
Out of France, so it doesn't fucking
they're France's problem.
Yeah, it's a French freaking movie where the I believe the age of consent over in France is what, like 15?
Yeah, well,
which is disturbing enough.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sorry, but they all need to be invested. This movie, do they not even know proper brain chemistry? A child's freaking brain is not developed to the
I know, right? But this is the problem. Like we always put this scenario out there. It's like, you remember when there used to be pitch meetings? Remember when you got a bunch of people in a room and you pitched a movie and you pitched this specific part of the story to someone, and then someone would be in the room like, "Whoa, hold on a second, I don't know about that. Is there any kind of way we can change this part of the movie because that room's not going to fly?" And it feels like all these movies that are coming out now, there's no pitch meetings anymore. They just like, "Oh, go ahead and produce it, and then we'll just deal with the backlash after the fact." It's like, what are we doing here?
But my thing is, it's like, this seems to be coming from the critics of the film. Like, if it's like intentionally like this is supposed to be a child, because I can understand the concept. It's a Frankenstein female. They don't know any fucking thing. So it's like, if she's a tabula rasa, that makes sense. Now, if they're specifically trying to perversely pitch a child's brain and that's their pitch, then yeah, that's fucking weird. But I can understand a Frankenstein woman being a tabula rasa, someone that does not know anything.
To clarify here, the way they're describing it, they're saying straight up that she's brought back to life with the brain of an infant. So it's not like a metaphor for like an infant's brain. They're literally saying that. And even though that in of itself, it's like, you have to ask the question, where did you guys get the brain of an infant at the beginning? Isn't that enough questions in and of itself? But it's like,
the language is clearly intentional. It's not a metaphor, because it makes me ask the question, you know, who are the poor things? Like, it's clearly the children who are going to be sexualized after pedophiles like see this movie and say, oh, if a infant brain, or if a woman can have an infant brain, then clearly a child can have the mind of an adult. Like, this is just rationalizing minor attracted people.
We see
they're doing this in real time.
I usually don't.
I called this 3 years ago.
In this case,
I called this 3 years ago.
Yeah. And here we are. We're fast forwarding to, and people are still in denial that this is where the road is going here. And of course, it's like it's becoming more and more blatant now. They're finding some subtle way to get to it. Yeah, I see you, Rick. We're gonna get to you eventually. So don't give me.
What is this movie called?
Poor Things is the name of the movie. So Rick, obviously you've seen the same things that we've seen. What's kind of your take on the hype for this movie here?
Well, I've seen people who are touting it with 14 nominations, which would tie the record for the most nominations for any film, with All About Eve, Trashtanic, and crappy La La Land. What would I say? I say I'm going to go watch the movie. Although The Favorite is probably the most conventional movie. I understand that Yorthos has made. It's posh film. I never accept the hype. I don't believe the hype until I actually see the movie. For example, I heard the hype about a movie. I don't know if people remember, what was it called? Sorry to Bother You. It was supposed to be this great revolutionary work. It was absolute garbage, and nobody.
Oh, come on! It was
that.
fun. It was bonkers.
No,
it was fun.
No, the horse thing.
It was written by a communist, but I enjoyed it.
Oh, that explains why
that explains everything.
Well, that explains why my communist friend liked it. So
yeah, Boots Riley.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned. We can forget the questions of how the brain of a baby can really fit comfortably into the body of a woman, and all the sex scenes. I'm not shocked by sex scenes. I've seen Showgirls twice, uh, so I'm not horrified by it.
And what Johnny was saying here too, it's like, yeah, so you're essentially implying that, you know, if we just give someone an adult the brain of an infant, that their first thing that they're going to want to do is just have sex with a bunch of people, right?
No.
That child, they're trying to portray that as that somehow that's childlike innocence. Like, that is not childlike innocence whatsoever. That is straight up degeneracy and perversion that you're trying to normalize through the lens of a kid. And it's like,
They're not even hiding it anymore.
We've got we've gone from cuties to poor things.
They're trying to hide it, right? They're saying this is designed to promote, bring down the patriarchy, promote feminism, when it's actually designed to promote pedophilia. You know, what's the next letter on the LGBTQIA plus? It's M or P. It's minor attracted person.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I said it.
There was a 60-minute Australia piece about pedophiles, and some of them really are born that way, and they just need that's the way they came out. Yeah. I will just add real quick, for Your Honor, Your Honor, Judge Sider, I'm so sorry that Barbie will no longer sweep the Oscars. I know that you had absolutely convinced that it was going to take every Academy Award. It was going to be like 19. It was probably going to win even live action short film, but no more. Poor Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie. They're not. They might as well just scratch the names off the Academy Awards.
Let the record show that it took borderline pedophilia to knock Ken off of his mountain. So.
So I'm so sorry. They don't feel the Kenergy.
Yeah, Cider, what do you think about this just degeneracy?
When it comes to these new age films, I'm just not on board with it. I'm not. I guarantee you this started out, it began its life as a Inuyasha fanfic about Kikyo being brought to the future and her just being horny after being relieved of being the priestess of the shrine. She just wants to fuck everybody now that she doesn't have to sweep and kill demons. And I guarantee you that's where the plot of this movie started. It was on Archive of Our Own. Whoever wrote the script for this trash was like, oh, so a person from the past gets brought to the future, relieved of their duty, and they want to fuck. Cool, let's roll with that. Where the critics are saying it's the mind of an infant, I only want to interject that if we're dealing with a woman who was assembled like Frankenstein, which they imply this in the description, but we're not sure if that's exactly how it goes. I read that she was brought back to life, not that she was Frankenstein together.
Yeah, that's what it says here, that the woman was brought back to life, but with the infant's brain. That was the description.
Correct. And so,
like a corpse.
So what I am envisioning is what Cassie, I was going to call you Classy. Cassie had to say about it was, what Cassie had to say about it was the tabula rasa situation, where you have a fresh human being in a socially sexable state of maturity, right? So there's nobody that's going to be mad about you banging Emma Stone. In fact, they probably would buy you a taco if you did. So what happens here is that I agree with Cassie, is that you got an adult human. It's fresh out of the tube, if you will, fresh out of the tube. So on an ethics level, yeah, that's an infant. So that may be what they're talking about. Is this might be one of those easy bake bitches? You just toss her in the human easy bake, and out comes a date. And that could be what they're talking about, an infant, meaning a fresh-born human being, but in the fully mature body. Yeah, so you are still dealing with the concept of pedophilia in the sense that someone's being taken advantage of who otherwise has a childlike view of the world, but because of their physical, legal status, when you look at them, they're an adult. And that could be the angle they're going with this, is that without the restrictions of society being upon her, but having the ability to communicate, decide for herself, and experience the world through those things, this person is like an infant. in that way. So
Well, I just think it's far too soon to declare this will sweep the Oscars. We have, outside the critics, none of us have seen it. So,
but
we can't
here's
go
the
by
thing,
them.
though. If it's promoting messages that they want to push, which seems to be the implication here that this film does. Like I said, this film is apparently pushing, like I said, intersectional feminism. It's pushing, sexual immorality, having sex with as many people as you want. The whole high body count culture that they're pushing here. It's pushing against, the patriarchy and all this stuff. So this is all things that these critics absolutely lap up like dogs. So I mean, if it's pushing all these things in this movie, then yeah, they absolutely will reward this with all the awards, even if what they're pushing is completely degenerate and borderline evil, if not straight up evil at the end of the day. So.
Here's the thing, guys. If you go watch the trailer, literally Emma Stone looks like a female like Renfield. Her eyebrows are so thick. And like, you know what I mean? And she looks like her eyes are like cockeyed and shit. And like, you know what I mean? Like she's not playing a sexy character or something. You know what I mean? So it's like she's like playing a Universal monster movie in a Terry Gilliam movie, in a Terry Gilliam world or something. So I would be very surprised if it's this fucking preachy postmodernist movie. Because again, the director is pretty much he doesn't align himself with that kind of horse shit. So again, I'll be surprised if I'm wrong. I'll be the first one to own up to it. But I certainly hope it's not that kind of movie.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. But I don't know if this will be successful, even if it gets Oscar nominations, even if it gets actual Academy Awards. Because, I mean, who here is really watching Shape of Water? I know it was brought up in the chat, but who here watches Shape of Water? Or as I like to call it, what call it? Not Grinding Nemo, 50 Fints of Grey. I mean, I think Grinding Nemo was Ben Shapiro, to his credit. But I just called it 50 Fins of Grey. Or The Creature from the Blue Lagoon. I mean, that's really... Who watches that? Who watches that?
It came inside me.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's not.
Or like, but even The Artist, which is like a recreation of like of a silent movie, basically.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
I actually like The Artist, but with this movie,
I like the dog
again,
in it.
We will see it. When we see it, maybe we'll get a better picture, because I can't say, oh yes, the critics are absolutely correct about how they see it. Maybe we're missing something. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, the description is rather creepy. Just
what's hilarious though is that Emma Stone looks like Betty Davis in The Private Lives of Queen Elizabeth and Essex.
Yeah,
Holy
okay,
fuck.
that's why it looked familiar. Yes,
that's pretty funny.
Oh, you mean
they were? Oh my god, it's crazy.
I guess we know what
Betty
Emma's
Davis
gonna look like when she's old.
I was gonna say it was Joan Crawford that was known for her eyebrows, so that's pretty funny.
I thought you were
people
going
are always
to go...
talking about what she's gonna look like when she's 40. What's she gonna sound like when she's 60? Because that just sounds like it's
Hello, how are you? You forgot to file your paperwork.
She sounded like that 10 years ago.
No, I thought you were going to go with whatever happened with Baby Jane in her look. But don't knock your generation's Grace Kelly, okay?
Look, hold on. Okay, this is what the problem is. They haven't made a movie where somebody fucks Herbie from The Love Bug yet. All right?
It's coming.
That was Lindsay Lohan After Dark.
No. She didn't put a strap on stick anything up the tailpipe, all right?
Yeah, he means the actual car.
If they're gonna be brave, they need to fuck Herbie. Because you know what? You fuck Nazis in the ass. You understand?
Well,
and the Nazis made the VW. So there you go. Full circle.
All right, just for the record, it was Cider who brought up Nazis.
See?
So
yeah, this time.
Yeah,
I own a Volkswagen, by the way.
I'm a judge, We'll see.
Yeah, but what's the rating? What's the rating for this? Is this NC-17?
I don't think it's been officially announced yet because it's not available for.
It's
not
it's rated R. It's right here.
Okay, because if this were NC-17, I would imagine it'd be much more graphic in, like I said, the showgirl style. But if it's R, maybe the sex scenes will not be as graphic. It's hard to say again.
Well,
without
last
actually
year's
seeing the film.
NC-17 movie that got shit on by critics was Blonde. You know, and you didn't hear it this kind of praise for that movie. So
no, you hear people hate it.
Yeah.
They say graphic, right? And she's Frankenstein. She's the Frankenstein lady. So like in the middle, they're not showing you anything like boobies and butts and vaginas and ugly parts, stuff like that, right? They just show you like her head and arms falling off during sex and shit and whatnot. And that's the graphic part of it is, you know, her head just pops off in the middle of it.
So it's rated R for strong and pervasive sexual content, graphic nudity, disturbing material, gore, and language.
Now, I wonder what the disturbing material is.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, look, we're going to continue here on this theme of Hollywood promoting just absolute degeneracy and sometimes even blasphemy, because Jay-Z is producing a new Sony film here called The Book of Clarence, which I think can only technically be described as blasphemy against Jesus Christ, right? So here's the idea of this film. Is The Book of Clarence. It's produced by the guy who did How They See Us or something like that, whole thing about the Central Park 5, that movie that came out a while ago, if you guys actually watched this. But it's an idea of that. So here's essentially the premise, because there's a lot of elements to the story that has to be talked about here. Is that it's during the time of Jesus Christ preaching the gospel in Jerusalem during, like, I think the 30 AD, like around that point in time. Obviously, the setting here is that everyone in Jerusalem is black, because there's a lot of people within, you know, the Black Hebrew Israelite movement that believe that, you know, Israel was actually black, and that somehow white people corrupted history to make it seem like that Israel wasn't really black, so we're denying them their true history. So, of course, all that's completely soaked in this film, even though multiple countries have spoken out against that multiple times. But rapper Jay-Z is teaming up with the Harder They Fall director, James Samuel, for this project that can only be described as racially divisive and straight up blasphemous. So the Book of Clarence, an upcoming Sony movie here, is going to capitalize on the rise of Jesus Christ by claiming that he is the new Messiah. So this is a guy who is essentially a drug dealer within Jerusalem, and this is how they portray him. This is not me making things up here. He's a drug dealer who's in need of money, and he sees Jesus Christ coming to Jerusalem, and then he's like, oh, I can be a Messiah and con a bunch of people out of the money too, and start a whole life of glory for himself. So the entire film is... I'm trying to know the best way to describe this without, you know, just going off the rails here. But yeah, the character is a drug dealer who uses popularity of Jesus Christ as a means for his own financial gain. A director of the film says that Clarence is hustling to make ends meet. So apparently black people have been hustling ever since, you know, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. He's betting big on a chariot race that he partakes in, and he's dealing with whatever hallucinogens he's taking back there. So not only he's a drug dealer, but he's also, you know, a drug addict as well. And he impresses by the power and the influence the 12 apostles has, so he decides that he wants to join their ranks, even though he doesn't actually believe Jesus Christ is the Messiah himself. As I said here, it reimagines Jerusalem as majority black, even though on the film itself they kind of favor whether Jesus Christ himself is going to be portrayed as black, but other people in the film, like Mary and John the Baptist, are race swapped in this film as well. They said that they wanted to emphasize black Israel in this film, saying that as much as we love these films, there are no black people in there. They said, what happens when, let me finish, what happens when we people of color and powerful women occupy an inhabited space? We know how to put our spin and inject flavor into it. That's literally what he said about this project. I'm not making anything that I just set up here. Jay-Z then went on to double down on Samuel's claims about the film, to essentially double down on the narrative that Israel and the Jews were actually black, and not how white people have crafted that narrative. It says that he's not afraid to think the big things about us as people and our place and where we were raised. He says, we didn't exist in Western times. We know that that's false. And we didn't exist in biblical times. History will say otherwise, Jay-Z responded. So he really wanted to push the racial narrative here of that Jerusalem and Egypt and all these other Middle Eastern countries were really black. They weren't actually white.
Okay.
Even though...
So, real quick, if the flavor of the day for this movie is piss and shit, they nailed it.
Yeah, it gets worse. So it's like throughout the course of the film, Harold Clarence, like I said, basically becomes a counterfeit Jesus for the most part. Intimates Christ with false preaching, fake miracles. He even declares that, I'm your new Messiah. He even makes the declaration at one point that knowledge is more important than faith. And anyone who knows about the Christian religion knows that faith in Jesus Christ is the most imperative thing about being saved in the grace of Jesus Christ. So they even go against that whole narrative. There's a lot of things about this movie, and Jay-Z wanted to make it very, very clear that despite the blatant mockery of what the Bible teaches, that even though this is talking about a time where Jesus existed in Jerusalem, this is not a faith-based movie. So he doesn't want you to go see this film and thinking that this is going to be a Christian film, and he's a sensitive imagination. He says that this is a story about a young man who finds faith through love and wanting to become somebody in the world, which is the story of everybody. Everyone wants to find love, and everyone wants to leave this place having accomplished something, having left their mark that has been there and hopefully will be affected in the world in a positive way, Jay-Z explained. So literally he's basically wishing the same character motivation that Satan had when he rebelled against God in heaven, because he wanted to be more than just an angel. He wanted to be God himself. So just don't know.
It's crazy.
That's also there
it's
too.
Crazy how he wants so badly for this film to feel wholesome, but it's like, bruh, like your entire pitch just kicks so many people in the dick. How can you try to make this piece of shit wholesome? Is crazy.
And keep in mind, this is the same guy, Jay-Z, who earlier this year opened the Book of Hope, which is an exhibit in Brooklyn earlier this year, where he literally creates his own book of Psalms, which is essentially 30 years of his own lyrics that are written as biblical scripture, as if he's God himself. And this is an exhibit that actually exists in Brooklyn right now. It's basically, you go up there, it's played out as if it's a natural temple, and there's an entire book that's written like he's giving a book, a biblical book that he basically views himself to be God. So Jay-Z is not beating the allegations that he is part of the Illuminati and that he worships Satan. That's all I'm saying with this project here.
There are certain things. Oh, sorry. Go
ahead. Johnny, I wanted to start off with you here on this one to give more kind of a Christian perspective of this whole thing. It's kind of hard to sell people on modern day television show and movies because they know the influence that comes out of this town. But when you hear stuff like this, and I know there's going to be a lot of people to kind of downplay what exactly they're doing here, because it's always like the narrative of, oh, they're just trying to get attention. It's like, oh, they're just trying to get like a rise out of you. But when you hear about a project like this and you understand kind of where the perversion of scripture is more than a lot of other people, like what is kind of your take on projects like this that they try to normalize in society these days?
Well, I'm coming from the lens of, we're very clearly living in the times where Jesus is about to return. Mm-hmm. And it, to me, just seems like a whole bunch of predictive programming that's saying, that's like preparing people to claim to be Christ, to perform miracles or fake miracles, and to like gather some sort of following. And the Bible like literally warns us that this is going to happen. So I find like the timing, that this movie is coming out, as well as like the contents, this guy's claiming to be Christ and just conning people to be pretty interesting. I also find it pretty...
Keep in mind, just in case you guys haven't followed our Bible Lens podcast, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've literally talked about how we believe that in the end times, there's going to be 2 Jesuses during the end times, a fake one that's going to deceive people to believing that he's the Jesus of the Bible versus the real one that comes back at the end to save the world, especially Israel, more specifically here. So the way that everything's being timed out here, it's like based on everything we've talked about with Islam and Catholicism, we do believe there's going to be 2 Jesuses in play in those final times. And here you have basically a film that plots it out not specifically the same way that we have plotted it out, but like you said, kind of that predictive programming of they're preparing you for a time where there's going to be 2 false messiahs during that time, right?
And it's normalizing, like, okay, when you see these false messiahs arise that actually have a huge following, it's like encouraging people to also claim to be Christ, and then gain some sort of following. And then all of a sudden, people are even more confused than they are today.
Yep. Like I said, this is especially from a guy like Jay-Z, who there's been long since allegations for many, many years. Rob has we and Rob have talked about this for years, about the whole thing about the Illuminati and the control and the Freemasons that they have in Hollywood and stuff like that. And when we heard these allegations like 15 years ago, even we didn't like believe in it, because I mean, at the time we didn't have enough evidence or any knowledge of faith whatsoever to say like, oh yeah, no, this is totally happening. We thought that it was all kind of like hearsay and whatnot. But now, as we're starting to see this become more and more rampant, and we have another story here later on, which we'll talk about here in a second, that kind of goes on at the same time. It's like I said, I think it was somebody in the chat said earlier, it's like they're not even being subtle anymore. The mask is no longer even being put on at this point. They're pretty much telling you exactly who they are and exactly who they work for at this point. Do you feel the same way here, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think this goes hand in hand with people that are famous at a certain level and they kind of want to keep their fame. Jay-Z was a drug dealer, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
the idea that he wants to bring like community good and he wants to give back, it's just horseshit or whatever. I mean,
exactly.
Not only is the movie blasphemous, and look, I'm not a Christian, I'm a non-believer, but it's like to Christians, it's incredibly blasphemous to sort of be like, oh, you don't need faith. You know what I mean? Trust in knowledge. And it's just like, I was raised in a Christian household, and I know how incredibly important faith is to the people who believe and find great meaning in it. So, everything you read in that article, just there's warning signs of red flags and flashing lights going off.
Yeah, Rick, I know you had something you wanted to mention there before I started. So,
well, no, I mean, there are certain things that confuse me about all of this production. First, it almost sounds a bit like Life of Brian, where someone is mistaken for the wrong Messiah. And secondly, this whole idea that you need a black Mary and a black apostles and all of this. I don't know. Maybe it's just my naivete, but because Jesus and Mary and the apostles were all from the Jewish background, I kind of imagine them looking like Barbara Streisand and Adam Sandler. I don't know if that's blasphemous, but that's just kind of my idea of what a Christ would look like. It had nothing to do with them being black, and no one's saying that they weren't there. I don't think they were. They might have been in Jerusalem for Passover with one of the lost tribes, but I don't think that they were actually part of the line of David. That's just me. I'd also just want to say that I don't know what the end goal of this is. This is not about representation, if that's what he's aiming at. It's really bizarre that he thinks that we need a black Jesus or a black Mary. I'm just really confused what he's thinking, and I'm reminded though I'm not the most devout believer. I mean, I'm someone that wants to working his way towards faith.
Infidel.
Well, I prefer heretic. I would just say that this reminds me of a story in scripture, and I would trust the biblical scholars to know more. That would be Johnny and Jacob. The story of when there were a group of kids, I think, who were calling on the name of Jesus because they saw others do it. And then the demon replied, well, Jesus I know and the apostles I know, but you I don't. And so they all got a good whipping out of that. So seems pretty similar, because I'm confused. Clarence, and I keep thinking of the angel in It's a Wonderful Life. So Clarence is of the time that Christ was there, but he's doing these scams and he's going to bet on that chariot race between Masala and Judah Ben-Hur. This is all becoming slightly comical to my mind. But I would just advise JC. You've seen a lot of successful films that appeal to the Christian market. You do have was it the Jesus Revolution, and then you had even Nefarious, which they showed at my church, curiously enough. But do you think you're going to ride the coattails by doing a movie like this and try to get the attention of people? Just be careful what you're playing with, Jay-Z. That's all. That's the only warning I have as someone who is not the most devout of believers, or at least someone who's working towards being more of a believer. So just beware of where you're going with this, because you might find yourself not particularly welcome in certain circles.
Like even like at this point here, like I said, I can't play it because obviously they'll claim it if we do. But I guess the guy in the right here is supposed to be a representation of John the Baptist, and then obviously John the Baptist slaps Clarence for being disobedient because he's a fool, and that's supposed to be taken more of like a humorous take more than an outright blasphemous one. But let's go ahead and jump in our good buddy TW here. TW, have you had any context of what we've been talking about here for the last couple of minutes?
I mean, honestly, dude, yeah, Jay-Z, I mean, ever since he called himself like Jehovah, I mean, before that was just like, oh, that's just a nickname, but now he's been married for however long to one of the hottest women in the world, Beyonce. It's like, it almost kind of does make sense that this brother's ego would just like overinflate to all hell and start actually thinking of himself as Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it feels like that's not even just like ego, but it's like a lot of these guys, especially in Hollywood, kind of view themselves to be like gods in their own right? Gods to be worshipped, even like going like as far as that. Because I know, Johnny, if you recall last night when we were kind of talking about like the worship of Mary and how it's really kind of like a representation of these Babylonian false gods that people have been worshiping for many, many years here. And we all know we picked this photo of Beyonce here where she's very much representation of that false pagan worship. When you look at people like Ishtar or Easter or Isis or whatever variation of it you can, because I mean it's a different name under different countries, but it's all basically the same pagan god. It's like these people literally view themselves to be gods among men, and Jay-Z, like I said, creating his own exhibit where he's basically creating his own biblical book, like somehow he's the word of God, and you have his wife here, Beyonce, being worshipped as a pagan god. It's like these people are telling you exactly what side they work for, and spoiler alert, they're not working for Christ. They're not working for the biblical God whatsoever here. So
yeah, I mean it's pretty clear these people have been deceived by the enemy, and what's the enemy's original lie from Genesis that keeps trapping humanity to this day? Eat this apple and you will be like God. Like that's Satan keeps doing it. And I feel like these elites, these people who have like influence and power and money already, they fall prey to that pretty easily, because it's like, oh, not only can I have influence, power, money, stuff like that, I can literally be God, because now I'm in contact with this like, spiritual entity.
Yeah. Who are just playing a lot of these people as fillers. And not only that was that the original lie, the actual original lie was, if you eat this apple, you surely will not die, right? Which is the original sin against God. And they said the death of the wages of sin is death. So she ate the apple thinking that, oh no, nothing would happen to me. And then it's like, well, you just brought sin into the world. I mean, you just brought death into the world. And we've been seeing this over and over and over again. And we're talking about biblical scripture here. I think we'll bring up this verse here when we talk about our next story, because I think it plays more into the next story we're talking about here. But any last thoughts on kind of like the Jay-Z Book of Clarence story that you guys wanted to bring up here?
Not
Man, these people oh, go ahead, my bad.
No, just say I'm not watching it. Fuck that shit.
Oh, oh yeah, but yeah, these people got to stop messing with this stuff, man. They're gonna bring some serious hell into their lives. You keep fucking with this type of stuff.
Yep, and try to warn them, but they seem like they're hell bent, no pun intended, on messing with the dark side, and it's not gonna
learn the hard way.
The real hard way, unfortunately. But let's jump over to another story here now. Doja Cat, who, if you guys remember, we literally talked about her maybe like a month or two ago about the first video she did where she was like embracing demonology and demons and kind of this whole concept of like hell. And there was a lot of references in her video to actual demon worship that everyone kind of like blew off as, oh, like I said, it's just art, bro. It's like, oh, this is just a marketing ploy. It's like nobody wants to believe that, she's actually into this stuff. So she did released another video not too long ago called Demons, which I guess she's taking this whole demon thing that she's into right now even a step further. So like I said, same thing as the last video. There's a lot of references here to demonic entities and like demonic worship and a lot of things that if you don't know your scripture, or if you don't know kind of like the emphasis on kind of like the history of demons, could go completely over your head. So if you just watch it kind of like on its face value, you think that, oh, this is just another quirky music video by an edgy artist. But as you see in TW, I think you even talked about this on your channel not too long ago.
Yeah.
It's like you're starting to notice here that, especially with a lot of these artists, like it's not just one artist trying to do this. It's not just Lil Nas X that's doing this. It's not just Lil Uzi Vert doing this. I think there's another, at least a couple of rappers I can think of off the top of my head, where it's basically just doing like the same thing over and over and over again. It's like this is becoming out of like the entire industry now. Like everyone in the industry is essentially doing this. So you have to ask yourself, why is it that so many people in the film industry at this point are embracing the demonic? Because this is essentially what they're doing here. Like you're embracing demonology, you're embracing the occult, you're embracing devil worship, and it seems to be primarily in the music industry right now. Like we see it in movies occasionally, we see it in television shows that definitely touch on the occult, but it seems to be very prevalent in both the music industry, and I've also noticed in the fashion industry like as well. It's like, what is it with kind of like this embrace that Hollywood has of the demonic, and are they telling us something far more sinister about themselves that more people are willing to admit at this point? TW, what's kind of your take on this thing?
Yeah, honestly, it's like maybe it's one like these people, like these artists, probably just trying to pay back like their dark masters for like selling their souls for their absolute lack of talent, because that's the only thing I can think of. It's like, if you got to go this far in like platforming this crap constantly, you ain't got no talent. You have nothing about you that's gonna last for generations, like with a Michael Jackson or with like a James Brown or anything like that. These artists know that they don't have that kind of a staying power. So yeah, they got to do this type of stuff. And this is what I was also talking about on my little news segment thing. Like, it's just like, if people don't like turn away from this in the sense of like, okay, this is like messed up and wrong and messes with my like religious beliefs, if they don't turn away from the sense of that, I think maybe they will probably turn away from it in the sense of like, okay, now this is just becoming absolute cringe. Because it's not like, because this is another thing I said on my video, it's not even like shocking anymore like it was with Marilyn Manson, like it was with Black Sabbath, or or like a freaking Slayer or Slipknot or anything like that, where it's like it's not so much.
And that's only if you believe. And just real quick, that's only if you believe that the artists that were doing this 20, 30, 40 years ago, that their intent was simply to be shocking. That's only if you believe that narrative, right?
Exactly. And it's like, it's like, that was just like shocking. This is just sad. It's honestly just sad and disturbing. And yeah, it's cringe as mess, because it's like, I don't know, once again, it's their attempt at trying to be edgy. I don't know if, like I said before, they got to pay back their dark masters for selling their souls so they could make it, because they damn sure wasn't talented enough to do it on their own. It could be a mixture of all of these things, man.
Johnny, I'm not pretty sure you don't know much about like Doja Cat outside of what we showed here, but what's kind of your take on this whole, like I said, Hollywood's embrace of the occult, Hollywood's embrace of Satanism? Because like I said, this isn't the only artist doing this right now. It's multiple, and it's gotten to a point where you have to start calling this stuff out for what it is.
Yeah, I thought TW brought up a pretty good point there, like attributing this talent or whatever to I don't know, the spiritual entities that seem to give them power. Because in that Variety article you sent me earlier, Doja Cat, I guess this demon song is one of a few songs where she's like, this is a quote, "I went in and I was like, finally I get to rap again," almost like she needed permission to rap, or like didn't have the talent to rap because she didn't do enough rituals. But I don't know what it is, but this is like normalizing demonology and like taking power from demons. And as you said about Jay-Z, like this is a road straight to hell.
Yeah, keep in mind she did a video. I'll pop it back up here in a second. This is literally like last month. We talked about this here. She has a video here where she's wearing the name of a demon on a T-shirt. There's references to cannibalism, which goes all the way back to paganism as well. Obviously, you have death here. Lots of references here to Lady in Red, demonology, and stuff like that. And this is stuff that if you're not aware of, it just goes completely like over your head, because obviously you're not you don't identify the symbols of a lot of the things that they're putting in these music videos. So you just think to yourself, oh, it's just entertainment. It's like, no, there's a lot of occultist stuff in these videos that you're seeing here. So I don't think that someone goes to this kind of level to put occult things, real occult things, by the way, not just like phony things that you guys see on like Sabrina the Teenage Witch or something like that, but actual occultism into the videos if they're not practicing it or promoting it in some kind of way in real life, right?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, this isn't first. TW is right. It is sad because it's not shocking anymore. We've seen all this, and I've said this the last time we talked about Doja Cat, someone who's I still don't know what her music sounds like. It's not shocking, and that's why they do it. They think they're going to shock by dressing up as demons and this, that, and the other, but it's not shocking. We've had this since I don't know since when music really. I don't want to say since it began. But we've heard the stories of, was it Robert Johnson down at the crossroads selling his soul? We had, Jimmy Page invoking the spirits and the demons up there with Led Zeppelin. I mean, we've heard all of these things before. We've seen all of these things before. I don't think that we've taken it to the extreme of Doja Cat, dressing up twice. And then there's Sam Smith dressing up as the devil, and Little Nas X.
Another one I forgot.
Yeah. Little Nas X dressing up as the devil. For me, it seems predictable. It is not shocking anymore. I think it just shows a lack of actual talent if you have to devolve yourself into just evoking the spirits or suggesting that there's all these demonic forces. And I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm just saying that come up with something original. This is all so much shtick at this point. I mean, it'd be shocking if they didn't. But I'm not interested in Doja Cat or anything that she creates.
I do think it's interesting that you can go back to the even Bob Dylan and the 70s and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and you've had this thing, this aura that's created to sort of for showmanship, for metaphor, symbolism. I mean, for performance art, basically. But it's very weird how there's this through line going back 50 years in the music industry that there's these whispers. I mean, you've heard the stories. If you look for them, how people sold their soul to the devil for, I mean, there's an SNL skit about it with Garth Brooks, where Will Ferrell plays the devil. But it's like, so as somebody who doesn't really believe in this stuff, just because like I see it more as, like I said, performance art and symbolism and metaphor. It is very weird how it keeps coming up time and again and again and again and again.
And it's especially interesting that it shows up very heavily in the music industry, because we know, at least from the Bible, like Satan was God's like worship leader. So if you think about, okay, how can he empower people like the best or most significantly, like it's not really a surprise that it manifests in like music the most.
Well, let's go even a little deeper into that, because John, I'm pretty sure that in Matthew, remember when Satan was tempting Jesus and exactly what he said to him to tempt him. He says that he brings him up to the mountain, shows him the kingdoms in the world and all their glory, and says, "All of these things I will give to you if you fall down and worship me." But Jesus, obviously being the Son of God, rejected him and didn't go for it. But you think to yourself, okay, well, that was Jesus. Like, there's a lot of other men and women out there who did not have the will to reject that kind of offer. And we see this time and time again. And this is kind of like what I say. It's like these tricks that we've been seeing here, like, these aren't anything new. Like, we're essentially recycling the same playbook over and over again. Only thing that changes is the players, right? So all these people in Hollywood, whether it be, in acting or in music or in fashion or wherever the case may be, you wonder why they're all slowly embracing evil. Is because, well, what if someone had went to them and basically said, hey, I'll give you the entire world, fame, money, women, whatever temptation you could possibly get out there if you worship me as your God? Do you think that a lot of people who aren't biblically sound or probably don't believe that any of this stuff is real to begin with would say no to an offer like that? No, because all they see is the fame, the money, the women, and etc. And they'll take that deal time and time again. And we see this with so many other people in the music industry. And it seems like now it's primarily in both rap and pop. I'm not sure if TW knows that as well, but a lot of these demonic artists that we're seeing now are primarily in the rap industry and the pop industry.
That's
now.
Exactly what it is. You don't even see the metal people. You don't even see people in rock really doing this type of crap anymore. And honestly, there's like another aspect to kind of look at this too. It's like, I'm almost wondering if it's so much them wanting to promote, like really believing this stuff, or maybe it's almost like a cry for help, like a sign that they're breaking down, like kind of having a mental breakdown. It's like, I think more and more people eventually are going to see like, now it's like, oh man, this is so cool and dark and rad. It's like, when in reality, it's like, well, no, this person's just clearly having a mental fucking breakdown. It's like doing all this type of stuff. Yeah, it's like, that's what I feel like.
To me,
the shit doesn't even look cool. It looks disgusting.
No.
Like, she looks like a disgusting fucking pig. Like that, it's like, at least, like, bitches be out there with their ass out. No, Doja Cat now is literally dressing up like a ugly ass, disgusting, demonic little pig. So it's like, I don't understand how this is like something that people find cool. It grosses me out on many different fundamental levels, and one of it, being on a religious level. And I'm not really a religious person, but I'm the type of person that, look, I don't believe in the Ouija board, but I don't fuck with the Ouija board because I just don't want to introduce potential problems into my life. So it's like the same thing with this. I just don't find, like, it just comes off in every reasonable level as creepy, weird, and I'm just gonna stay away from it because it's not even remotely intriguing to me at all.
There was an old clip here. I'm not sure if you guys remember it, but it was with Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate was talking about Satanists, right? People who worship the devil and believe in Satanism. And it was kind of this whole idea of what he calls, or what he believes is karmic retribution, where you have these people who actually do worship Satan. Like, it's not a game to them, but they leave all these little clues, all these little subtle hints that, they do in fact worship the devil, because in their minds is that, well, if they can show you that, hey, look, this is what we're involved with, if you don't stop me, then essentially you're endorsing it, right? And he was almost right with what he said. Here's where he loses the plot here, because he is Muslim, but here's where he loses the plot. In his mind is to think that they have to do this in order for karma retribution to themselves, which is absolute nonsense, because we all know that those who don't identify Jesus as Lord and Savior, there's only two roads you're going to go: the broad path of destruction or the narrow point to salvation, right? So all these people are going to end up the same way. There's no retribution with Satan. That's a lie in of itself. But here's where you get to the real point of this, is that it's not that they're trying to get karmic retribution for themselves. They're trying to condemn the people who are participating in it, because all these people who listen to this type of music, or obviously you have a bunch of big concerts going on right now, so everyone's going to go see either Taylor Swift or Beyonce, and they're doing a lot of these pagan witchcraft rituals during their shows and whatnot, right? And everyone's celebrating, everyone's just consuming it. They're making it so obvious now that you can't deny that you didn't know that something was up, right? Because at the end of the day, you're all going to have to answer something in judgment, right? And it's going to be a question of, why did you partake in this knowing that it was evil? Well, you can't just sit there and say, well, hey, I didn't know that this was evil. Nobody told me. If they make it so blaringly obvious how evil it is what they're doing, you can't turn around and say that, well, only if someone told me that this is what they were doing. If only somebody told me that this artist actually worshipped Satan. Like, I thought it was all a bit. It's like, no, you chose to believe that it was a bit because you didn't want to accept the reality of what was actually going on here. And that's really what it's gone down to now. And then, yeah, Pete unfortunately had to drop out. He did say that he only had to drop for us for a little bit here. So, but we'll begin to our last story here in just a second. But to me, the way that I look at it is that all of these people are saying that, is this marketing? Is this them trying to get a reaction? I feel like a lot of these people are just simply coping with the reality, is that they don't want to accept the fact that, hey, look, guess what? A lot of the big celebrities that you guys love, that you guys idolize, that you guys listen to, whether it be in movies and music or whatnot, they all, in one way, shape, or form, side with evil. And at the end of the day, they're not going to be on the same side as good when it comes down to it. I mean, we talked about this with the Jimmy Levi story a few months ago. It's like, he's saying that, hey, look, these people are evil. This is the stuff that they're doing behind closed doors. He's coming from a family who his grandmother used to be an occultist for Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson. So this stuff's been going on for many, many years. Rob and Rick, you guys saw the movie Babylon last year, was pretty much portrays Hollywood doing these very degenerate sex orgies back in the 1920s. So this is nothing new for Hollywood in and of itself. And Johnny, you would know the significance of the term Babylon and what that actually represents there. So it's like they're constantly telling you exactly what's going on here. The problem is very few people choose to believe what's actually happening. That's really what's going on.
Well, and the term Babylon is very symbolic of a great city about to fall. So I understand
not only a great city, but as we talked about last week on the show, the mother of all harlotry, the mother of all fornication, the whore of Babylon, like it's all symbolic.
Yeah. And you didn't mention Nefarious. I remember there's that part early on in his testimony or in his statements where he says that he started out doing small things like the Ouija board and like being very open to it. And eventually the demon took over and he was powerless. So he was the actual human was kind of trapped in there while the demon was in control. So we've seen things like that already. And just don't watch Babylon, all right? It was a terrible movie.
Yeah, it's not a great film. So any final thoughts on this story before we jump over to our closer here?
Doja Cat showed up at the Met Gala talking like a cat. I mean,
and dressed like a demonic cat too, right?
Right. So I mean, you're not. What's the expression? It's a few cookies short of a cookie jar, or a couple fries short of a Happy Meal, something like that. That lady was probably dropped down a flight of stairs as a baby. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
It probably was a bad breakup that just sent her over the edge. It was just like, hey, well, you know what? Yeah, why don't I just do all this? Basically, it's like if Britney Spears had way more of a breakdown than she did before. That's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just curious. Did she, when she was dropped as a baby, they decide just to implant the baby's brain inside an adult female and have it grow?
They put a cat in Doja Skull's head. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. Not even a cat brain, just a whole cat in there.
Yeah, so like I said, this is what Hollywood is now. We got them making movies celebrating putting zombie prostitutes with the brain of infants, and then we have one that's just absolutely mocking Jesus Christ, and then we have another one that's just straight up embracing demons, and then people wonder why people accuse Hollywood of being complete evil, and it's like, well, there's evidence to support it. That's all I'm going to say there. So I think they're all on the same team.
Right?
At this point,
it seems like it.
I think they're all on the same team at this point. I mean, I know there's a story out there about Taylor Swift. It's like we'll have to save that one for another week because there's only so much Taylor Swift talk I can take in 1 week at this point. So we're gonna move over here to our closer. This is our final story of the night, and maybe it's an uplifting story, a happy one for our guys here in the group because Ironheart has allegedly been canceled. It's allegedly been pulled off of the Well, let me explain to you what Ironheart is. So a few years ago, when Marvel was doing their diverse and inclusive storybook characters and that they were doing, the comic book characters they were doing, they decided, hey, you know what? Everyone loves Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is awesome. You know what would be better if we made Iron Man a black woman? So they created the character of Ironheart, which is literally Iron Man as a black woman, and nobody liked the character. The character was very narcissistic, very unlikable, but she was a black woman, so no one could say anything about it. And then they decided a few years later, hey, let's put this woman in Black Panther because she's black, and the other character here is her black, so they all need to be in their same movie. And then decided, hey, let's give them an old Disney Plus show. So the Disney Plus show was supposed to be filled with drag queens and trans actors who cut their own breasts off, and it's supposed to be a big celebration of LGBTQ, which is goes on with the theme that we've been talking about tonight of Hollywood promoting degeneracy and evil. And now I think they realize that the show that they were going to produce is so bad that they're going to pretty much kill it altogether. So Disney announced last week that they're reshuffling their entire Disney Plus TV schedule. All of their shows have either been pulled entirely or they've been pushed back even further now. So the excuse that everyone's using here is the writer's strike and the actor's strike. I think they're using that as a convenient excuse because the reality is that a lot of the projects that they got coming out, no one's excited for, and they realize that it's going to cost too much money to fix these projects. So they're probably better off shelving it altogether. So Marvel undertook this shuffle as part of an effort to make each title an event for fans and audiences. Now, keep in mind, Marvel's last event was Secret Invasion, one that both critics and audiences unanimously said was terrible, by the way. So not even the critics can save Disney from the flop that was Secret Invasion here. You see the chick for Game of Thrones in this one here, but so the announcement is that every Disney Plus show has been delayed. The Secret Invasion, What If Season 2, Loki Season 2, Echo, Agatha Harkness, which has changed its name for the third time now, and X-Men 97 have all been pushed back or delayed for possible reshoots or hoping that the strike ends before they can release them. So it says here that Loki Season 2 will be on track for an October the 6th premiere. That means if it doesn't get pushed back again. What If Season 2 has also been pushed back. It's probably going to come out around Christmas now, so they're delaying that once again. And then no other notable shows. Echo, which is, if you guys don't know by now, I don't know how you couldn't possibly know. She's the one-legged, deaf, Native American, possibly lesbian superhero that they put a show out with an actress who can't act whatsoever. That was supposed to come out in November the 29th. That's now been pushed back to January of 2024. So that's been pushed back as well. And then, as you said here, X-Men 97 was looking at a fall 2023 release. It's now probably going to push back to the spring of 2024. So everything's getting a bump. Agatha Harkness TV show, which is the spinoff of WandaVision, has now been renamed for a third time. It's now called Agatha Darkhold Diaries, and they're hoping to have that come out in the fall of 2024 after announcing that it was supposed to come out at the end of this year. So that's been delayed an entire full year now. So, and then here's like I said, here's the big story here. Ironheart has now been pulled back entirely. It said it's on an indefinite hiatus, meaning that as of right now, it's not even coming out. Daredevil has also been given an indefinite hiatus as well, so that's not coming out. The thing with Ironheart, which really worrying for a lot of people thinking that this is going to be good in any way, shape, or form, is that this show is already shot. Like, they've already shot the entire season. They shot it like a few months ago, but they realize that they have to do reshoots because the effects are not good, the acting is not good, and they have to keep going back to fix things to make it somewhat watchable. And they think that by delaying, that somehow this is going to save these projects, when it's absolutely not going to save anything. Here's the fatal flaw of the MCU right now. After 33 movies and 15 Disney Plus shows, no one cares about the MCU at this point. They don't care about the new latest superhero. They don't care about Black Captain America. They don't care about female Thor. They don't care about Black Girl Iron Man. They don't care about Agatha Harkness. Like, none of these projects excite anyone to see anything further with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, Rick, you're the Disney fan here. What is your thoughts on Marvel once again pushing everything back or just suspending it all together? Are you disappointed now you're not going to get Ironheart like everybody else is?
Oh, well, time will heal. Once Barbie sweeps the Oscars, assuming that Poor Things doesn't overthrow it,
Yeah.
I guess that'll that'll heal my heart, my heart. The problem was that they glutted the market, and I've said this repeatedly. They felt they had too much product, and they expected the fan base to just follow along and embrace all of these things. They're not. Who really liked whatever her character was in? Was it Black or Wakanda Forever? Nobody cared. People actively disliked her. Even the people that it was supposed to appeal to disliked her because she's an unlikable character. That's the problem with Marvel as it stands now. They throw out these characters and tell you you must love them, and when they don't, they act surprised. Why? Because they just throw them at you. You need to build them up. You need to have introduced her, sprinkled her here and there instead of trying to make her the focus. No one's going to want to watch Ironheart, and I think all of us now are so eager for the one-legged, deaf, mute, lesbian, Native American. When you hear that, you were talking earlier about pitch meetings. When you hear the idea of if you go to a pitch meeting and say, we're going to make a show around an obscure character that appeared in Hawkeye or one of those things.
Yeah.
And it's going to be about a one-legged, deaf, mute, lesbian, Native American. If I were a studio executive, I would have just said, who is this going to appeal to? Who's going
Not only that, but to go as far to hire a one-legged deaf Native American actress who's never acted in anything in her entire life outside of the last series you did just 2 months ago.
And you're going to build an entire show around her.
They gave her 6 episodes.
It's an insanity. But these people were just drunk with power, and they were absolutely convinced that everything that they made was going to be embraced and that people were going to flock to it. You know what happened? Nothing happened to it. No one's going to care. The people, again, I've said this many times. At Endgame, that was the end for so many people. Even some MCU fans, certainly for the general public. After that, there was nothing for them. There was nothing for them. They didn't care. I mean, that was the end of the story. Why would they want to watch anything else? And all these other projects, like, I never saw WandaVision, so I mean, I only got that's the whole thing. That's all Agatha. That's the only thing that we got out of her. So I'm gonna watch About a Witch. Hey, there's another thing that they put into the evil thing. Here's a story. Here's an episode, an MCU show about a witch, a literal witch.
Yeah. I mean, we did talk about that. I'm not sure we talked about it here, but definitely on the Bounding in the Comics show about how people who watched, Doctor Strange 2 last year or 2 years ago, whenever it came out, were talking about how quote unquote demonic the movie was because they were actually using like real occult symbols like in the movie as well. And these are people who are not Christians or are not normies whatsoever who even picked up on that part. So,
oh come on, it's about the Sorcerer Supreme, of course.
Well, look, I don't think that there's anybody who hates Disney as a company more on this panel or really on Twitter the last decade than I have. So I'm incredibly happy and heartened by this news, this information. I've never watched a Disney Plus show, and I'm glad almost all of them failed. My brother, and to a lesser extent, my family, my mom and stepdad, watched a lot of this shit. My brother liked WandaVision. He even liked that fucking Transformers movie. I know that's not Disney, but I was just like, how you grew up with Beast Wars like I did, and you still like that piece of shit. So I mean, you have things like, but the Buzz Lightyear movie was playing for my nephew this past Labor Day weekend, and I had to chirp in with my little comments about why would they make a movie, like why would they make a movie or a toy off of a movie that no one cares about, no one likes, it doesn't even make sense why this movie would exist when this is such a hero that's cut off at the knees. So Disney has an incredible problem. I hope they listen to their fans. I hope they listen. I mean, I here's the thing. I hate Disney as a company. I want them to fail. I want them to crash and burn. However, if they're smart, they'll listen to their fans who are sick and tired of having their heroes denigrated, of having these cheap remakes foisted into theaters without one thought to how they should be made or produced. I mean, the Snow White thing, that alone is a fucking disaster. So again, I think all of this should tell them it's not working. You need to change your strategy. You need to change what you're doing because it is not working.
Well,
I mean, Kate's pretty much saying it here. I mean, it's like if you know Disney by now, especially over the last several years, they absolutely despise their fan base. I mean, Star Wars is a perfect example of this. Marvel, they placated to people as long as they were getting money, but now they feel like they're in control, so they're gonna control the road from here. Like Disney doesn't care about its fan base; they care about what can they possibly do to get money out of you suckers, and that's what they're gonna do at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to mention Star Wars and I was going to mention Indiana Jones. All the properties that Disney has taken, it has demolished, and it's just diminishing returns. They're not. I don't know if they'll ever listen to anything that the fans say, because remember, they hire writers who actively dislike the franchises, or that's Star Trek. But I mean, the general mindset is, we don't have to listen to the fans. We don't have to follow anything that came before. We need to. This is a time now more than ever. We need to defrost Uncle Walt and get him back to work. All right, take him out of that Disney vault. Defrost him. All right, get working on it.
Cassie, Disney in shows and stuff.
Couldn't give a single fuck. Disney makes a bunch of bullshit, and I can't wait for them to crash and burn. And I mean, this is just another obvious piece of shit that should have never even been greenlit to begin with. So if they actually do canon, I mean, I'm sure they lost some money on whatever they had going with it, but at least they're trying to smarten up at least a little bit, when financial times are tough. But yeah, fuck them. I still hope that they financially they suffer and continue to suffer. So I'm actually sad that this happened, to be clear. I'm very sad. I wish that it would actually make it to Disney Plus and that no one would fucking watch it like virtually everything else that they put on Disney Plus. And they could have lost a lot of money from it. So I hope that they come to their senses and continue to release woke fucking garbage bullshit that no one wants to see. Okay.
Oh, you could always watch the new Peter Pan, where they have the lost girls as lost boys, and that could be comforting to you, Cassie.
Cider, have I made you unironically excited for Ironheart or Echo or any of these shows that we've talked about here?
Not one bit. I don't think I could smoke enough weed to be excited about that. Back when Riri Williams first appeared in the comics, I had a plan to fix her. There were a lot of bumps and bruises with that character, but they could be ironed out. Pardon the pun, but they could be ironed out pretty simply with just a few tweaks here and there. But as the years have gone by, that character has become just the wreck of Gibraltar, man. That's just gone, just at the bottom of the Lake of Doom there. So them canceling the Ironheart show is, I would say, less of a blessing, really, because had it gone out, it would have accelerated the death of Disney Plus by a lot, considering they love to burn money on CGI, a la spending 80 hours or something worse than that, animating She-Hulk's twerking butt scene. Probably more than 80 hours to do that.
Hey, trust me, there was episodes that were worse than that because I reviewed every single episode of that show.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you did that to yourself.
So I'm sorry, JEC. You know me and the ladies like that, But
hey,
anyway,
Cider.
What?
I just wanted to ask real quick: are you an indica or a sativa guy?
I both.
Okay.
I make salads, my brother. I make salad.
I don't understand what that means.
We here on the Barroom Podcast do not endorse the use of edibles, especially. I'm not sure if you guys remember that one, but don't do edibles.
Edibles are stupid. Okay.
Yeah, both said don't do that. Just don't.
And I'm not sure I know what this is, but going to the special effects, I can tell you. You look at the ones for that Love and Thunder, the visual effects for that. That is absolute abomination. Especially.
Well, I wait, hold on. I didn't say they were good CGI graphics. All right, I said that they love spending money on them.
Yes, but for the money that they spent to get those ghastly results, that is unforgivable. That is.
But seriously, compare what John Wick 4 did with CGI and to what fucking Marvel does with their fucking budget, and it's like, it's a crime. It's seriously a crime.
Well, it proves. See, they went the George Lucas route with just creating these environments that they don't need to create. That's the biggest problem. Is they're just in love with the volume room that they made there, and they're in love with just enslaving their VFX departments. I swear these guys are chained to their desks.
Oh, they are. Those were the stories. Those were the stories that I heard. That they were trying to make these effects on a very tight time budget, and they couldn't do it. And they did the best they could with the limited time and resources that they had. So part of me says, you did the best you could, but it's just still pretty bad, and you shouldn't release it. I'm just curious, how bad would Ironheart be if it were actually released? Because Secret Invasion was demolished by everyone. I mean, even the critics that normally would shill, sadly, for anything that came out of Disney, even they couldn't go along with it.
Well, see, Ironheart was going to do something very drastic. In the Wakanda Forever movie, she is presented as a they-them. She's very androgynous in her appearance. So the Riri Williams show would be less about cool person going around in armor, saving the day and whooping butt, and more about a young lady discovering that she's not actually a woman, she's a they-them, and that gender is a horrible construct created by men, and that it needs to be torn down. And that's what that would be about.
That's more than what I know. All I remember about Riri in Wakanda Forever is that she killed the queen. That's all I remember.
Yep.
In one of the greatest acting performances in the history of all mankind from Angela Bassett.
Nailed it. And as for Agatha is supposed to be another run at Charmed. I promise you that is their goal with Agatha is gay Charmed. That's what their goal is. That's why they're tripping over it. They can't get it right because what do you know? Charmed doesn't work when it's about lesbians. You have to throw some white lighter dick in there.
Yeah, right. Johnny, I know you have like no concept of any of like the Disney stuff that we talk about, so I just wanted to get your honest opinion on just basically what you've heard so far.
So my opinion is Disney is in fact going downhill in tangible ways. I've got their stock market chart pulled up right in front of me. September 1st, they had a 3% drop in their stock price, which I think, aligns with this schedule mishap. Over the last year, their stock price is down 30%. And since March 2020, which was like the bottom of the COVID stock market drop or whatever, their stock is down 6%. So Disney is doing really, really, really good in the financial department.
Yeah. And it's very funny here too, because me and Johnny both know a Disney from the Disney family. Now, we're not going to throw their name out here, but I think based on what I've said about the Disney Corporation of the last several years, I think there's a very low possibility that they're ever going to be on our podcast ever again. Just throwing it out there. It's a completely unrelated note. So, but yeah, I mean, look, you F around and you find out. I mean, this is pretty much what they're doing now. It's like I've said this many times, they thought for years they were untouchable, and now they're finding out very, very quickly that they're not. And they realize that, oh, what do we have that we can possibly turn the ship around? Oh, what, Agatha? Oh, what else do we have? Oh, Echo? Oh, what else do we have? Oh, Ironheart? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we're screwed. And they're finally realized just how screwed they truly are.
Yeah, I mean, it's not MCU, but I'm sure, was it Ahsoka will rescue them and revive their fortunes.
Yeah, and I'm not even watching like the Star Wars stuff, and I've been honest with my opinions on Star Wars. I've never really been a Star Wars fan in any real metric of that whole thing. I gave Disney Star Wars a chance, and they lost my interest within like a handful of years, and then I've been done with them ever since. So them going back and destroying the canon of old at this point, like, just doesn't really like bother me whatsoever at this point, because I wasn't really that attached to the franchise to care that much. But yeah, I mean, like I said, they're destroying their own properties, and they're wondering why they're losing money and nobody wants to watch. It's like, yeah, it's your own fault. So
Well, because they focus on the wrong thing. I mean, they really focus on creating stories that will expand on the various universes. Instead, what they're doing is focusing on all of these messages that they want to send, and it's a type of they'll be willing to lose money if they get the applause and the praise from groups that aren't going to watch their shows, and that's sad. I feel for the fans that really care about all of these. I'm sure that there's probably a fan of Echo who was eager to watch her adventures. Same with Agatha and Ironheart. I'm assuming there must be at least one person that actually likes the character enough to have wanted to see a whole show built around her.
yeah.
There must be at least one person in this world.
Look, if you're a fan of the MCU and you actually like excited for anything else they have coming up in the next few years, I mean, all I gotta say is. Yeah, so I think we will just leave it at that here
Well,
for now. But
I know that my commie friend loved Loki.
of course she did. It's a weirdo. Exactly. Like, just one point here before we wrap things up. JC said there's no fans of Echo. It's like, yeah, everyone on this show is a fan of Echo, and they're only a fan of Echo because of me. I'm the only Echo fan in the entire world who's even looking forward to watching that garbage show. So
Yeah, I've said it. This this sounded like a Kids in the Hall skit when
Yeah.
you described it to me. I'm going.
I'm going to be the only person that Bounding in the Comics who actually has to like watch all those episodes to review it. It's going to be my own fault, but I accept that. I accept that it's my fault. So there we go. Well, guys, we actually managed to finish a show for once under 2 hours. So I think that has a lot to do with Orange Hat leaving halfway during the show. So we'll just blame it all on him. But yeah, so we've got all our topics here. So I want to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank all the guests for being here tonight, especially our good friend Johnny, who came on for the podcast for the first time. If you want to see more of Johnny, you can see him on Monday night when we do the Bible Lens podcast. I'll tell you the topic of our next podcast this coming Monday. But I'll start off with you, Johnny, if there's anything that you want to promote. I know you got a Substack there that you want to promote, so let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. Find me on Substack. I've got some end times prophecies I talk about, and I've got an article coming out soon about the economic cycles of the tribulation. So should be fun.
It should be fun, and by should be fun, I mean not fun at all. But yeah, definitely go follow Johnny. He has a lot of interesting reads there on the Substack. So just in case you guys want to look for more of him, and then we'll jump things over to Cult Classic Cage over here, who got the curly hair rocking this time around. Even though she keeps wearing that stupid cap that takes away from the curls, maybe we should think about getting rid of that. Just throwing it out there.
It's an iconic part of Cult Classic Cage. Okay, it's the whole tomboy look. The hat is a big part of it, but
I mean, you already got the cat ears behind you. I mean, you don't really need the hat too.
Hell yeah, there you go. Hell yeah.
There you go.
But guys, you can find me over at Cult Classic Cage on YouTube, Kick, and Twitter if you want to talk about all sorts of gaming things. Apparently, got a lot of hate for my most recent video criticizing heel versus babyface. While I do think
there's a shocker.
Yeah, while I do think that the overall message was obviously in the right, I think the way you go about fighting woke ideology is not acting like a woke activist fucktard. So that's my overall thoughts. But yeah, definitely go check that out.
Just a little disclosure here. We literally talked about that on Culture Casino show last Sunday night. We were arguing about that for, I'm not even like making this up, nearly 4 hours. And people were getting like heated over like this whole like conversation here, and I'm just kind of like sitting there during the show. It's like I really don't have any dog in this fight because one, I play like PS3, so I don't even have no concept of the game people are arguing about to begin with. But it's like even if you was, it's like I don't think I could care enough to be truly angry at the fact that like, oh, they're putting pronouns in the video games. It's like, yeah, they just put out a video game like 2 months ago that had a guy having sex with a bear. Like I don't think like this is like the hill to die on if you're gonna get like outrage about degeneracy in video games at this point, right?
I mean, on the woke scale, I guess Starfield is like 0.01% woke. If that keeps you from buying the game, then hey, so be it, man.
Yeah, I think bestiality is more of a hill to die on than the pronouns part. But Judge Cider, where can they find more of you and more of your judgments? Let's just put it that way.
I can be found at the Holy Legion voice chat Thursdays at 10 o'clock at night, where I pass judgment, even though I'm not a judge, on whatever comes through. And I am not a judge. Please do not ask legal advice or for me to make actual judgments on anything. I am not qualified to do so, and doing so is probably a crime somewhere in the world. But, and other than that, I'm on the dank stream unless it's too hot, and then I don't want to do anything but melt, because it got up to 81 degrees here today, and I just felt like I was going to die, so I didn't bother. But then I found out that Liam said I cross-dress and sleep with men, and I was like, what? So I had to go on there and do something about that.
No, that was an interesting endeavor there.
You gotta love Australians, you know? They're great little fan fiction writers, you know? They come up with the craziest stuff down there.
Really good at giving up your guns when you got locked down by your own government. That was really
getting thrown in concentration camps during COVID.
Yeah.
Great guy there. Speaking of Rob, where can they find more of you, Roberto?
You can check out my Twitter, which is just Rob_Motto, at Rob_Motto on Twitter, or X, or whatever the fuck it's called right now, the shit show of a site. I just got a PS5, so I'll probably not be doing much writing as usual, but I'm playing Gran Turismo 7 and Madden 24, so there's no real chance of bestiality there, which I appreciate. I like to keep it simple. But yeah, I'm watching a bunch of movies, so you can see what I'm watching. By following my Twitter. That's about it. I'm really looking forward to the Scorsese movie, but that's 6 weeks away, and that means that we're gonna have some really great movie reviews coming up. With some.
By the way, just on that release, I think that 6 weeks is the limited release. I'm not sure if that's getting a wide release till later on in the year, so we might want to double check.
The 20th, the 20th of October is roughly 6 weeks away from now.
Okay, I just want to make sure that wasn't the limited release. Hoping that was the wide release. So there you go.
Yep.
All right, Rick.
I'm surrounded by people who apparently cross-dress and have sex with bears on games. I don't really know what you guys talk about half the time, but for myself, I've got just my my haikus, more reviews, and hopefully I'll be able to enjoy the Hellenistic hijinks that all of you will be watching soon, but I won't have to review.
It's gonna be a long one.
Hey, just saying hi to my cousin George.
There we go. And then last but not least, our good buddy TW. What you got coming up, man?
You can find me on YouTube, mostly on YouTube throughout the week. And on TikTok on Saturdays. I just released part 8, episode 8 of the GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition playthrough. Not going to do anything for tomorrow. Thursday will be part 10 of the Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition playthrough. And Friday will be my new series, kind of like YouTube Props, except the opposite, where it's YouTube's worst, where I talk about YouTubers that I think suck. That's basically where you can find me. We do a whole bunch of stuff on, on the TW Booty Hunter channel. But yeah, as Starfield, I'll probably play that shit when it's on a discount. But nah, I'm good right now.
I mean, look, at this point, the only game I'm even remotely interested in playing is like Major League Baseball, the show, and I'm still not going to buy a PS5 for that. So that's all I got at the moment. Letting you guys know what we got coming up on the channel here the next few days. So I got a bunch of reviews coming out on the Society Review site that's linked in the description below. Obviously, those 2 articles for Bounding in the Comics should be up later on this week as well, so look out for that. This Friday night movie club, we're going to be reviewing My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I'm hoping to have a lot of ladies on that show, even though I only have like 2 that have actually committed to that. So, Kate, I'm not sure if you're in the chat or you got a YouTube channel. If you want to be on the show Friday night, you just got to go watch that movie. So that's coming out on Friday. We're going to be doing a review of that one. Monday night, Bible Ends Podcast, episode 9. Johnny will be back with me and a few others. We're going to be talking about, over the last few weeks, we've talked about Islam. We talked about Catholicism over the last couple of weeks. So now we have to talk about the third piece of this puzzle, which is Judaism and the Jews. So this Monday night, we're going to be talking about why the Jews believe Jesus Christ is not their Messiah. And we're going to talk about that in great detail on a Monday night in a 2-part series. And then we'll be back here next week, episode 65 of the Barroom Podcast. We're fastly creeping up to 100. I know that when we started this thing about a year and a half ago, we didn't think that we would make it this far, but somehow you guys have stuck around this far into the show that we have to keep doing this thing. So to everyone who joined us tonight, quick little shout out to Orange Hat, who had to leave a little bit earlier, and Pete, who had to leave a little bit earlier. You can go link to their stuff. They have great content, so definitely give them a shout out as well. And to everyone who joined us throughout the course of the night, I'm going to give you guys a quick little rundown shout out here. Neozoic, obviously, Duke Nukem, Vanya, Mighty Orbits, JEC, Rich Swag Lord, shout out to you, Drax the Clown, Doba Fett, Spencer, obviously, Don't Let Him Burn, Tactus Jones. Who else do we have on here that I can give a quick little shout out to? Kate, obviously, for being on the show. Mephisto's Movie Reviews for joining us throughout the course of the show here. I want to make sure that I get everyone before we completely sign off. TW, obviously, you guys see them in the chat as well. And Alex vs. Evil, the hairline god, I still don't know what that is a reference to, but shout out to you as well. So for everyone who joined us on Rumble, everyone who joined us on YouTube, everyone who joined us on Twitch, thank you guys for joining us here tonight. Hopefully we'll see you guys on Friday night when we review My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. If not, we'll see you on Monday night when we talk about the Bible Ends Podcast. Hopefully we'll see you here next Tuesday night for the Bar Room. We're going to go ahead and hit the outro and get out of here. Good night, everyone. See you guys later. Wave to the crowd, people.
I'm waving. I'm waving.
Yeah.
Wave.
He's waving in spirit.
Wave now.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out! You get